Welcome, beloveds, to the Nurture Pod. My name is Iris Sullivan Daire, and I'm here across the universe with my beautiful friend Ginger Edwards. And the Nurture Pod. This is where we explore what is in our life, and also really kind of how to cultivate what is possible.
Hmm.
I think is does that about sum it up, would you say?
I think so. I think that's very well done. Yes, good job. Grateful that you take the intro every week so I don't have to think about what we're doing and how to articulate it in one sentence or two. You always do it well. What are you nurturing?
I am nurturing my body and my mind through a I got the total viral takedown. I'm 5 days into being completely taken out the dark side of working with young children constantly. Um, so yeah, I've been, and I'm actually really proud of myself because a lot of times when I get sick, like it's like you realize partway through, it's like, oh yeah, I should have been taking vitamin C. Whoops, like, like I
Yes.
have been, um, I got sick on Saturday morning. I kind of started to feel yucky on Friday afternoon, evening. Totally clear. I was sick on Saturday, really clear, like totally in bed on Sunday. But like I've been doing the you know, vitamin C and upping my vitamin B and D and doing like the lots of tea, including some tea that I still had from you, the North Coast
Cool.
Immunity Blend, and
That's a good one.
realized that I am totally out now of the our household's go-to tincture that I haven't made for a couple years and I still had some but I don't anymore. Like and so that's an interesting story too because that totally came to me in a dream. And but anyway, so that's what I've been nurturing is nurturing myself and sleeping a lot.
Wait,
And
what's your family's go-to tincture for
so
sickness?
f- the I So I was realizing that like the mix is usnea
Mm,
tincture and making tincture with fresh Sitka spruce tips in the spring
hmm.
and Oregon grape root and red
Yeah.
alder. So like the little tiny twigs, and I had catkins too. So um,
Mm.
as a totally a when you're sick kind of kick in the ass because um, alder is really good for your whole digestion system. It's but it's also and it's astringent, but it's good for infections.
I
And
didn't know that.
usnea is really good for lung stuff. And there's some lung weakness in our household, but it's like the lungs of the forest. But also,
Mm.
usnea is good for like strep and like for bacterial stuff,
Yeah, it's antiviral and antibacterial.
both of those things. And Sitka spruce is just badass.
Tons of vitamin C.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also like the pine has a lot of can kind of get in there and get rid of
Mm.
some yucky stuff. And Oregon grape is like golden seal. So,
Yeah.
and so like that's been that making a mix of those has been
What
my,
a really beautiful organ like mix too. That's
yeah.
like
And
all
it
the
feels,
little parts. It's like the root. It's like all the native parts of the forest. That's really cool.
yeah. And it feels like a good one because like a lot of, for us particularly, like kind of like that crud, like what are we
Well,
beset
it's
with?
that damp.
The
It's the damp,
damp.
cold environment that is that forest. So it's. I always think it's really cool that the plants that are the healers for the climate that they're in for humans. Like they
Yes,
create the
yes.
medicine because they have to exist in that climate. So they're producing components in themselves to exist in a wet, damp, fungus filled, fungal spore filled climate, right? And when I was growing as a farmer, the funguses were the ones that would take would kill everything. Just like they would just
Yes.
over and things would get moldy and um, so it was always really interesting that, yeah, horsetail was the thing that was just coming up as a weed everywhere. But equisetum, which is the kind of the bottle brushy horsetail thing, if you guys aren't familiar with it, it's really high in silica and will kill fungal spores. So if you spray it on your baby crops or
Oh,
in your
so
garden,
you made like
it's a
horsetail tea
tea.
for your
It's a tea, yeah.
nice.
Yeah, and so what you just said was just reminded me of like the human version of that, like making a tinctures and teas for your own body. So when we do hit these hard parts of the season, well, I'm in Guatemala, and it's
But
72 degrees every day. But
I don't
uh,
have any. Because
uh,
I didn't make more.
oh, you don't have any. Somebody does.
I didn't have any more because I
Mm,
had a little tiny bit, but then I didn't make more Sitka spruce. My neighbor got me
mm,
some usnea tincture recently, but like I didn't make more Sitka spruce tincture.
mm.
And so I was like, I'm out of luck. And like, it's kind of a weird tincture. Like people just usually have it as tea or take it, you
Yeah,
know.
they do. Yeah.
But anyway, so I've been more heavily, some tinctures, but way more, just drinking lots of tea, lots of
Mm,
herbal support
nice.
teas. And it does feel like it's helpful. I mean, I don't know.
Good.
I was pretty
Good.
sick.
Well, I mean, those I think plant medicine isn't necessarily going to stop you from being sick once you're sick because when you take it, right, you're already
Yes, yes.
feeling this, you're already symptomatic. Therefore, the virus has already entered and has like taken hold. So all plant medicine can really do, unless, like you said, you're taking all this stuff daily as a preventative. Once you're in the body, it's just supporting the body to the immune system to kick it back out, or to squash it back into its whatever container that needs to be
And
in, so the body isn't infecting it.
and the other thing that I did today that I'm really proud of myself for is that like yesterday I was like, oh, I should do a steam, where you put like the
Mm,
herbs and pour the kettle of hot water over it and the towel over your head. Like,
I love
people would
those.
do that with like Vicks Vapor Rub or whatever. Might remember doing that from growing up. And like there was a little break in the rain, and so I went out to the deck and like it was like, all right, who's still alive, and put together a handful of plants
Mm,
from out there. And Joe went and I just had my slippers on, so he had shoes on, so he went and got me a little bit of Sitka spruce and Douglas fir too. But like, so I had lemon balm and rosemary and violet leaf, and there's still
mm.
some strawberry leaves and some mint. And
Yeah, I was gonna add like oregano or thyme, like that family.
that's like so good.
Super high volatile oils that are really, really good for your immune. Like that's like, oof, like especially oregano. And in my gardens, they would grow almost year round. Like it was mild
Yeah,
enough in Oregon that it was close, but that was my go-to. If I was getting sick, I would just go like find as much oregano as I can and make a big
make
tea
a
of it and start drinking it. Yeah.
But I feel like I like from like an energetic point, like I was like, you got your head under there and it feels so good to like breathing in the
Does.
steam and like it actually made me think about you last, was it Beltane, like to go out in the morning and do the
Oh, the
dew,
dew?
wash the
Yeah,
dew. That was like
yeah.
super cool. But I was totally just feeling love for those plants. And then I totally was feeling love back from those plants because like these are plants that I've been cultivating in my little deck, right? So these
Hmm.
are plants that I've actively tended and cared for.
Yeah.
And I just felt like so I just makes me I just was just really feeling that love
Mm.
exchange in a really beautiful way. Like anyway, I'm still feeling it right now. Like I so nurtured
Yes, that's
and
right.
yeah, anyway.
No,
So
I mean,
that's
this is our kind of Thanksgiving episode, so that's right. Like being grateful for this relationship we have with the plant world is really massive because and the more you get into it, like the more you drop into that relationship and start playing around with it, the more fascinating and like interesting that relationship gets for me. And
yes.
I was yesterday. I There are these little bitey like no-see-um gnats in Guatemala, and I love this place. But there's one this fancy yoga retreat called Eagle's Nest, and it's gorgeous. I mean, it's absolutely built on this like side of this hill, and it has this view that's just drop dead gorgeous, and the yoga's great. And Oh my God. Like if you go to like the 7 a.m. yoga class, which I do, hello, proud of myself. Because I have to walk through the jungle to get there. But like we meditate for 30 minutes before we do yoga. These are big classes.
Oh,
There are probably like 35, 40 people in the class, all on this open deck over, like literally like, hanging over this gorgeous lake. I mean, it's stunning. However, these little gnats come out and they're just like, time for breakfast. And they just, I mean, I don't know what it is about me, probably my white Oregon flesh that is like, it's just like succulent and love to bite. But man, they come at me so hard. And
you're
when
trying
they
to
bite,
meditate while being attacked by
it's
midges?
just yeah, midges, and I spray myself with citronella and all the thing. Nothing. Like they're just like, nah. These Guatemalan bugs are like, we're gonna eat right through that. That doesn't even affect us. And so then I actually went and got myself some DEET because I was like, I can't even do this with because the reaction to the bites, like my entire ankles will swell like twice the size they were. I mean, it's a really strong allergic reaction to whatever, and they're not mosquitoes. They're way
No,
small.
the little tiny, like the no-see-ums are the worst.
Yeah,
Like up in Canada, like they can kill moose. Like
yeah, they're gnarly.
they're
Like the amount of
gnarly. And I
venom,
don't
I
know,
don't even
I'm
know
sure
how
it's a
they
different
have
bug.
that much venom in them because they're so small. All they are is like venom in a stinger and wings. I mean, that's all they must be. But anyway, my
They're
point
like
was,
pure anger.
yeah, they're pure anger. And like they really like me. Anyway, I'm getting better at trying to like. I'm wearing socks now and like long pants. I like none of this tank top shorts situation for me when I go up there. I'm like bundled for the first part of the class because once we start moving, it's better. Anyway, that's to say, I was a swollen up, bug bitten kind of mess on my legs the other day. And I went to the Tez Macal, which is like their traditional sauna here. It's like
Uh-huh.
a wood fired adobe kind of thing you crawl up into, and it gets really hot and steamy. And they have all these herbal salts you rub all over your body. And when you're in there, and it
Cool.
pulls out all this stuff. And man, like I just realized if I rub salt on in this like hot, it reminded me when you said you were steaming your head.
Yeah, yeah.
I steamed my whole body and kept rubbing salt, and then I would get out and rinse it off, and then I get back up there and do it again. I did it 3 times, and they have like a cold plunge. Um, and man, my bug bites just disappeared. Like it pulled all the venom
Oh my God,
my
that's amazing
bites.
and cool.
Yeah, it was so cool. And even rubbing the salt on there like helped it. Like it was like felt good, because I was
Yeah,
itching them,
yeah.
scratching them. And then by the time I left, which was like maybe an hour and a half later, they were gone. It was so cool.
I mean,
And then
that
I got
is
new ones this morning, but
oh yeah, but like that is such a that makes so much sense actually.
yeah.
Like because it's that it is, I think I told you that story about my student who had um she had been widowed for 20 years and her husband had been a chain smoker and she had moved into this tiny house on a friend's property and there was a sauna and so she started saunaing regularly and this like she said it all of like that
Oh,
her body had been storing all of that like nicotine and stuff. She could smell cigarette smoke on her skin. It was like coming
whoa.
out. And then she's like, after a certain point, she was no longer smelling it. But there was a while, like you could just smell it in the sauna.
Wow.
It was
In your
like being
skin.
drawn out of her body.
Yeah, yeah. Ew, it's probably so good for her to get all that stuff
Oh
out of
yeah,
her
no, she
body.
was an
Yeah.
amazing human. I think
Wow.
she's either like 100 now
Oh, wow.
um or or like no longer living. The last I talked to her, she was like 79 and she had moved to Austria to pursue her dream to study these ancient textiles and write a book about the weave structure. And she did it.
Amazing. Okay, what's her name? We have to know this woman's name.
Sheila Sullivan. She
Sheila
wrote like more
Sullivan.
Sheila Sullivan. I just loved her.
No
She was an
relation?
amazing, no relation, but
Okay.
she said she would adopt me. She had a bunch of kids. Um, she's like, you should just
Wow,
be my
that's
daughter
amazing.
too. She
I
was
think you kind of
amazing.
are spiritually.
Oh yeah,
Definitely
totally.
you're a spiritual daughter.
She had been after World War II, she was a total badass. After World War II, she was taking my class in like 1997. She after World War II, she was a secretary. So she was a civilian, but working in Germany on a US base.
Mm.
And then she had a break. And so she did this bicycle tour of Austria and Switzerland.
in what, 1950, 1940
Oh,
something?
yeah, probably
So you
1950.
so the bikes were not
She
what
was
they are now.
a three speed. She went
Oh
through the
my
Alps
God.
on a three speed.
Wow, that's so impressive.
And
I can't even imagine that.
she went to Vienna and she went to the museum. I've actually been to the museum that she went to. I mean, just like a couple of years ago, so many years later. But and she saw these textiles from the Halstead from the salt mines there that were super ancient, these
Oh,
Celtic textiles. And she's like, I want to know how they did that. Fast forward 50 some years. Yeah, because she's like, I've been waiting 53. She knew exactly to the month. Like when she came to my class, she's like, I've been waiting 50 some years and such so many months to take weaving.
wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. That's
And
so
so
cool.
she's like, I'm gonna learn how to weave and then I'm gonna go back to Austria and and figure out how to get access to those textiles so I can study them. And she did. She
Love
totally did
that.
it.
I love it when like pure fascination takes us on. You know what I mean? Like we just get purely fascinated with something that esoteric and weird. But like for her, like, yeah,
Yes.
it was everything. It was passion, you know? I mean, because fascination and passion and curiosity, it's such a great, I don't know, I just think that's such a great place for the human brain, if human spirit to be when you're
Oh
in that
yeah,
mode. Like,
totally.
you just want to unpack this thing. Like, you just want to understand it. And you're curious, but you're also like, you love it. You know, you're just like, I just think that's great. Whenever you can get, I don't think we have enough of that going on. I think there's just a
It's
lot of
and also like
information we have, but we don't like it's so rare that you find somebody who gets like passionate about something like that specific and
but
unique.
also think about like the thing that I find extra lovely about her as a human is that she did this. She came and took started taking weaving at 75 years old.
Yeah.
Like such a good model
Mm-hmm.
of like w- w- I feel like we have this real, especially for those of us who are a little enthusiastic, it's just a temperament style. There's a lot of like you're supposed to grow out of that. Like feedback I get when I teach adults is like very frequently it's like you're so enthusiastic, and sometimes it's like in a kind of like oh my God, and sometimes I didn't know you were going to be so enthusiastic, and then
Yeah, you're
sometimes
definitely one of these people I'm talking about. Like
and
you're very
then
enthusiastic.
sometimes they're like, "Oh my God, I love your enthusiasm." It's both.
Yeah.
It's totally both. Like I that yeah, like 2 summers ago, the woman, she's like, "I didn't know you were gonna be so blah blah." And I'm like, "So what you're saying is I should disclose in the class description that I'm neurodivergent?" And
Well, I mean, you're an artist. You're an art teacher. Like if you're not like nerding out on the topic, who will? Like, you know, you're that's
I mean, right? Who do you want to learn about? By the
yeah,
people that are
exactly. That's like the
obsessed.
job description. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Uh
I gotta drink some of my soda,
oh, take care of yourself.
my sparkly water.
Yeah, that's good. Oh
If
wow. Well, that's so cool. I love that. I love that.
I love that too. So you're doing that. So like you're modeling for people that it's like, 52,
Yeah.
dude, I'm gonna do this outrageous
Oh, can I
world
just tell you
travel.
a term I heard, and I was probably on social media, but I don't actually remember where. Um, because I think I've said on this podcast before, like the era of the early 50s for women, especially because we have this big hormonal change going on. Like we go, you know, in teenage years, we go into menarche. You know, we go into our periods, and all this estrogen, and all this, you know, all this big hormonal change happens as we get ready to be ready to have babies. And then you get to, you know, perimenopause, and it all starts to happen again in the other direction. Like, you know, and then your body's like, well, we're not doing that anymore. So let's give you more testosterone, blah, blah, blah. But there is like a similarity because of the hormonal changes going on between those two eras, I think.
Yeah.
Um, and so you want to like mix it up. Like you're trying to figure out who you are again. It's like this discovery period. And so the term is queenager, which I absolutely like responded to with like, yeah, that's it. I'm a, I'm a queenager.
Oh, I love it.
Uh, I just thought it was really funny.
Oh
Very
my God.
appropriate. Because that's I don't feel like I'm an elder like pursuing some specialty topic. I feel like I'm a queenager just being like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm not doing that anymore.
That's so good.
I'm changing archetypes, that's for sure.
So and so like I because we're working on we're doing editing for Tully's grad school applications.
Yeah.
Um and one of like, and so it's like reading all of these. So like looking at these different universities and their programs, and of course, so I've been reading through these like what kind of research are different because each school you have to kind of tailor.
Right.
It's you
Yeah.
have to figure out why do I want to go there, and then you have
Right.
to have a persuasive
Right.
writing about why this would meet my interests and how they align with your
Yes.
interests. And of
Basically,
course,
you're like marketing back to them. You're like read
yeah,
their marketing, and you're like, here's what I know you want. Therefore, this is what I want. This is who I am.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so like one of those is just I can't remember which school, but like um that's is like this idea of self-perception and like your and how hugely that impacts your your choices and your not just your mental well-being but physical well-being is very connected to self-perception,
Absolutely.
which is of super of interest, so like but anyway, so I've been I've been thinking about that a lot. And so like when you're saying like it's like a queenager, that is a self-perception tweak that shifts how you are experiencing yourself. And it's
Yeah. Because
which
it. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
no, just like I just feel like it's like those sorts of things of like are if our sample space, I think we've talked about this. Some people, like as we age, our one danger, I would say, is to have your sample space become smaller and smaller and smaller of how the world is, and like the
Yes. Right.
materialist worldview would like you to have this smaller and smaller and smaller sample space of what it means to be you, and it's what it means to be you. Um, should get even more restricted and more fierce, or not even fierce, like more strict as you get older. Like that's like
Yeah.
you should be more serious as you get older, and you should be less joy.
I mean,
Like
it's just being openly articulated in patriarchy now. I mean, before it was kind of like, oh, this hidden misogyny, and now it's just like they just say it like you're a low value female. I mean,
yes,
that's what
yes,
these
yes.
podcasts like. They just come right out and be like, low value female because you are no longer of birthing era, and that's your only use to men on the planet is to give babies and take care of babies and take care of us. So therefore, when you get to a point where you never did that or you're no longer doing that, I mean that is they're saying it outright now.
Yes.
Joy. However, it does make it a little clearer for those of us who, like want to discard these things. Like that's exactly what we have to reclaim then, because that has been in the culture. It's just been in the marketing, it's been in everything, since we were children. It's all embedded, interwoven with all of our educational systems and how, I mean, even fashion, everything, about you hit a
Yes.
certain age and like your archetype is no longer that useful, and then if any use at all, you should be leaning back towards trying to be as young as possible, right? Because that was where your value was. So you've got all these, plastic surgeries and makeup, and blah, all those things women are trying to do to stay young because of course. I mean, if that's where you're valued and you're not valued over a certain age, then I mean, yeah. However, yes, I agree. There's a very small sample space in the patriarchy for women, and yet there's this really big group of women now that have inherited, like, they exist, and they have the financial capacity to not give shit about any. You know what I mean? They're taking up space, and they're like, yeah, well, we don't need men. So we can just do our own lives. We actually don't need to buy. We're not trying to get a husband to for XYZ because we can now purchase our own homes and have our own credit cards and blah blah blah. So it's interesting that there's like this whole like, and it's the more that happens, the more reactionary the
The
kind of
more,
male
yes,
space
yes.
gets about shame, like even more shame filled, right? But it's just not. I don't feel like it's just. I don't think it's taking. I really don't think it's having an impact.
I think having it be articulated creates some cognitive dissonance that can
Yeah,
help open cracks
that's
in that
that's what I mean.
entrainment.
Yeah, it's no longer subversive. It's like now it's just out in the open. Like you are of no value, and therefore women are like, Yeah, I
You
don't think
can
that's
maybe fuck
true.
off,
Yeah, you
actually.
can yeah, back that up. I don't look in the mirror and see no value. Like, come on. So yeah, I think in a way it's kind of galvanizing this queenager part of us.
The
I don't
queen.
know. Who knows? I can only
I
speak for
because
myself.
because it's so. I feel like also this is it is going to come up for me because this is literally like my diagnosis week is like the first like around Thanksgiving and the first week of December is when
Mm,
in 2013 I did that whole like, um diagnosis boot camp where you get all these
uh,
tests in a week, Um or at least I did it all in one week. I apparently other people takes a longer process than what happened to me, but
mm,
um this whole like there's so many like terms for a person if they've like if they have something happen, so it's like this like you're a cancer survivor or you're a cancer fighter,
right.
and like those
Yep.
never really they always didn't really I didn't like
Yeah.
how it felt. I didn't It felt like survivor felt like winner versus like I was pretty clear because I'd had enough people die that were like
Um,
it was not about that. It's not about
no.
being a winner. It's not a, lost her battle with cancer just pisses me off. And so, and then this woman had the phrase that she defined herself as a cancer initiate.
Mhm.
And I was like, "Oh,
Yeah,
that is
because it is. It's an
yes,
initiation.
it's totally an
And
initiation." And I'm like,
that's
"That
what Francis
resonates."
Weller would say too. Like if you I think anytime you go into the mythic realm with this stuff, you go into the sacred realm,
Sorry about this.
it's very healing and get away from the the diagnosis of the medical and or the psychological world. And the other thing I'm getting really tired of is hearing like how everyone's, ADD or whatever, compulsive
Oh,
and blah. And it's not like those are bad terms if you're trying to understand psychology and, but again, another little score off social media because I just saw this thing and it really resonated with me. And I'm glad you reminded me because, again, like once we say, oh, okay, I'm whatever, let's say I'm obsessive compulsive or I'm an introvert or I'm, socially awkward or what I mean, all think of all the terms in the culture that, we label ourselves with or other people. And I'm just like, how does that help anybody? It's just like this little, label that you stick on yourself and nobody really knows you. And so I saw this little reel about taking instead it's kind of taking things from nature like instead of saying you're an introvert, it's like she has the spirit of the oak, like she likes to stand
mm,
alone in the quiet forest and, be grounded and takes her time with making decisions and doesn't like to go out and I was like, oh, the spirit of the oak, that's beautiful. Or like the spirit of the willow, is like moves fast but is flexible and, has has a love of water or whatever. I mean, it doesn't have to be, but you get the idea. It's like you, and I think this is going
yes.
back to more how indigenous people would talk about themselves and their relationship to the natural world because that was the reflection, that was the mirror, right? It wasn't any whatever university or medical establishment coming up with terms to basically pathologize
Path-
all of
all of
the
ways that
parts
we're
of
human.
humanity, other ways that we're actually
Yes.
just naturally human and part of the earth and nature. And so it's pathologizing anything that's not within this very narrow
Very
context
narrow.
of approval, right? Like or normal, quote unquote normal, which we now see again. Like America is like whatever they're saying, like these white, male structures are. I mean,
Super
they're
unhealthy.
totally insane, right? So like, it's just. I mean, again, like the extreme of the craziness that's going on. Watching them just unravel all of this is kind of like, wow, that white supremacy, violence, domination, hoarding money, and all this stuff. Like I don't know what that's the spirit of, but like it's fun to think of yourself in terms of nature terms, and it's not hard
Yes.
to do. And man, it does it just destigmatize you, and also it changes because nature's always changing. It has seasons, it has growth, and it's beautiful. I
So
just think like I love it.
I
It's very
I
nurturing.
super I super love that because I think it's the same thing of like how do we because I mean I think we talked about this last time like um I for a while was obsessed with mini epics, writing 50-word mini epics
Yes,
and
yes,
then
yes, yes,
like
yes, yes.
try to write an experience with two versions, the shadow version and the most benevolent
That's
version, but
beautiful.
try to make them as true as possible. So
Nice.
like that from that thing, it's like reframing not as like a tricking yourself, but just it's like what other view can we look at this from and really, it's like does it is is it less true to say I'm a survivor than it is to say I'm an initiate? It's like I could use either of those terms. I did survive,
Yeah.
but it's like which one addles me into a better emotional state, into a more into the life that I want to be living,
Right.
thinking
It
of my
also honors the initiate. I think honors the process of
in a different way.
transformation in a totally different way. Like again,
And
initiation is a mythic term. It's like a term that we've lost, and we don't do initiations in our culture, right? We
right.
have graduations, we have weddings or whatever. But I mean, like true initiations into well, like what I just said.
Yeah.
I believe if we were a culture of initiation, there would be rituals for women entering menopause because
Yes,
where are
yes.
those rituals? Because you are definitely
Changing
you're
for sure.
changing archetypes. You are entering a different phase of your body and a different phase of your life.
And I think like in
For
some societies it would be marked by a change in dress, which is the most
in
personal
status, yep.
and so
In
like
many cultures, shamans, if they were female, wouldn't be allowed to be shamans until they,
we're
entered
done.
menopause. Yeah, because that's like the wisdom, the wisdom of holding the sacred blood inside would be offered then to the community through like divination and your spiritual work. Which again, it's like this whole other like you think about it that way, and you'd be like, oh, I'm entering these years of entering to that initiation of becoming like the magic for my community, that this wise woman, which we have a culture that's just obsessed with youth, and so it's always looking back. You become less and less important, less and less valued, less and less visible, um, to the culture. Someone also said like take the cult out of culture. I was like, I love that.
Oh, nice. So because I've been sick this week, I've been watching a lot of YouTube, I have to admit.
Yeah.
Um, as one does. And
Mm-hmm.
but I watched this really interesting thing about this polyglot, this man that is just like a normal human, not like just a working class dude,
Mm-hmm.
and but can is fluent in like eight languages, conversational in 15 languages. Anyway, altogether has some degree of fluency in 37 different languages.
Oh my god, that's
And so
I can't even learn Spanish.
and which makes it like there I think like the number of people on the entire planet that know more than
um,
12 languages is a really small number, right? So like
yeah.
so they invited him, he was in Washington DC, and they invited him up to MIT to do a MRI, and so then they had him read in the different languages or speak or have conversations in these different languages that he can speak. And then just checked out his brain and then compared it to somebody that only knows one language and what happens in their brain. Like, well, they have lots of examples of one language. There's very few people in the world that have that many languages. And
Yeah.
the thing that they noticed in is that from this study, and I think they must have also scanned other people, but this was about this one guy, was the thing that they noticed is that the amount of work that the brain was doing, his brain was actually, you would think his brain was doing a lot more work, right? Because he was going to have to be
Mm-hmm.
accessing, whatever, to be switching between languages and all that. And in reality, his brain, no matter what language he was speaking, was doing less work in the language zones than the person that only speaks one language. And
Mm-hmm.
and so the question is, was he able to learn all of these languages because his brain was more, efficient in that way. He grew up bilingual because his parents spoke two different languages, so he was bilingual from an early age and had this epiphany about language as a child and became really motivated and started. So like by the time he was 12, I think he could speak four languages
Wow.
without any sort of like special training or anything. And
Mm-hmm.
just by like, he would go to the library and get books and listen, whatever, listen to his
Yeah.
mom's records of music that she liked in a different language.
Keep
And but
keep talking.
yeah. So but the thing that I was totally it sparked in me, which is relating to why what we were talking about right now, is that in nature, complexity is easier. And like as if you've ever been
Uh,
a gardener, you know that a monocrop is very it resource intensive
mm-hmm,
to have simplicity requires more work. What is the
mm,
default of nature is diversity, is complexity. Complexity
mm-hmm.
is the easy road.
Well, I would say I'm just gonna as a former
Go.
farmer, I'm just gonna say it's less work. That's why people do it to have one crop. However, it is less beneficial overall for the ecology and the system you're in. So like there's more nature wants diversity, right? Nature's
Yes.
so we have to I guess it's easier on like from an extraction stance, right? So if your goal is to
Yes.
extract as much pounds of whatever grain from a certain, it is easier to grow one thing and just be like tractor it, boom, spray it
But
down.
you
But
have to spray it though. That's the thing. Like the
yeah,
inputs, in
yeah,
order to keep doing that, you can't keep growing potatoes in the same ground over and
no,
over and over
yeah,
again without
you
a
get
shit
disease.
ton of
Yeah,
chemicals.
yeah, you'll get diseases because again, nature, it's we are healthier. It's a healthier system. So I guess economically, I'm going to say it's easier, but it's less healthy. Does that make
And
sense? Which is our
yeah,
entire culture.
right, 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 right. And so,
So I mean, it's just a reflection of the entire system that we live in. We want everything to be easier, but of course, it's creating all these externalities that we don't take in, that we don't feel like we have to take into account because we don't think of generations ahead of us or soil, existing for the next 50 years. We just think of it like to the next paycheck. Yeah.
and which also connects back to what you were saying earlier about like thinking of different variations on on neurodivergence as it how do we frame them? And so if we frame people's natural variations as pathological
Yes.
or as there being or menopause being a
Like a
pathology, a
diagnosis. Yeah. I think it's,
diagnosis,
yeah.
then that's a very different road to walk than to
Yeah.
recognize it's like, oh, they're more tuned in to, the I that was a thing that yeah, another online thing, but the woman was talking about how autism is is impacted by, is we have to talk about white supremacy because
Mm,
part of that pathologizing is the focus of white supremacy, of which white men, very repressed white men, are setting the definitions of reality in white
mm-hmm.
supremacy.
Yeah.
So we are not multidimensional beings. We are not living in a world surrounded by the ancestors and all of the nature spirits and all the everything that
Right.
is.
Yeah.
We are, we're this like singular thing. We have to act this one way, da da da. You're being too sensitive. Why are you being too sensitive? You're making things harder for the rest of us because you're being too
Yeah.
sensitive. Vers-
Pathologizing feminine qualities, or I would say, just in general. Yeah.
Versus if you recognize that we are in a beautiful, complex world that benefits with the whole benefits from the complexity of the ecosystem. So
Yeah.
like it's like when you think about like niche,
Niche.
like
Niche.
in logically in a thing in an ecosystem, they're overlapping. They're not, it's not like there's one plant to fulfill that role in in that ecosystem. There's this plant's really good at that, but this plant's pretty good at it, and this plant does a little bit of it. Like there's like a lot of Venn diagram and all of there's no,
Absolutely.
so like thinking about people with neurodivergence, it's like, oh, you're perceiving this thing. And instead of immediately gaslighting the person into saying, no, you can't, people don't perceive that. It's like, well,
Yeah. I mean, it's gotten so weird and so truly weird now. The men currently in power in the United States who are very influential all over the world. I mean, they're pushing this, ideology around the world too. It's not just the United States, but here's their testing ground. Um, the whole AI thing is really interesting because they have, I mean, Peter Thiel, some of these guys, Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, these guys who are into tech, they're working really hard to push this whole AI kind of religion. I mean, they speak about it very in a very religious, spiritual like world, with terms, especially Peter Thiel, who's I think legitimately insane. Um, he owns Palantir, which is like,
Super
making
scary.
super creepy. Yeah, making all kinds of surveillance systems and weapons, and but um, he's also giving talks about the Antichrist, and he's going around the world with these speeches about the Antichrist. he's kind of off his rocker. Anyway, if anybody's interested in looking up Peter Thiel, just Google Peter Thiel and Antichrist. You'll get all kinds of really interesting speeches. But he's very,
Whack.
very highly connected to the current administration and to the Silicon Valley and all the stuff that they're doing. But I think what's interesting about all of that is to say, like what you said, is that white supremacy has this. It's like a purity, weird, like it has to be. It's like less and less and less diverse, right? It's like we want
Yes.
we want to strip it back to like basically there's no diversity at all to feel safe. I'm not really sure what the whole. I don't really get it. I know it's about power, but it's like it still doesn't make any sense to me. But then you get to AI, and it's like another level to it. It's like beyond being human. Now what they want is actually the purity of just the computation. You know what I mean? Like we're so flawed. Like being in human bodies is too diverse. Like we're too close to nature just being in human form. These guys want to live in a computer processor forever. Like that's their goal, is immortality. And we kind of move beyond the need to have human bodies, which I think inherently, is
It's so gruesome.
well, it's a clearly showing that they have a lot of self-hatred around being on this planet. Elon Musk famously wants to go to Mars, and we're all like, yeah, go. But like, he seems to not leave because his rockets keep blowing up and but anyway, he's like famously like, we need to get off this planet, and like they're like, we need to get out of these bodies and we want to. I'm just like, I do feel like it's like the next level. Like if it's like Nazi Germany could have kept going on their whole weird purity trip, and if they had access to this kind of technology, they'd be like, yeah, let's just do that. You know what I mean? Like, why do we even need human? Why do we need nature at all? Which what seems is what they say. Like they famously have said like they think empathy is like
Toxic.
yeah, the biggest problem that humanity faces is empathy. And I'm like, well, you guys aren't suffering from any of that. But it's like fascinating. I mean, if you're really going to look at it, just step back and not be in the, oh my God, we're in the, these guys have a lot of control and power over the world. But if you just step back and look at them from like almost a philosophical stance, you're like, yeah, what is going on with this almost lust, like this,
Well,
and no amount of money or power is curing this for them. Like, it's not about having stuff. They have like literally trillions of dollars, like more money than anybody's ever had combined in the entire history of planet Earth, and yet they still aren't satisfied. Like they want more. I
so
think it's
it's I do think that there is this opportunity. There's always this opportunity, right? But like it is so egregious. And so when inequality as is rampant and as egregious as it is now, it's like the emperor has no clothes. The emperor thinks he has clothes on. They think that they're immune from the world, but the
I
reality
agree.
is that all the rest of us can see that and I think that more and more people are realizing it's like the problem is um the problem that is what the problem is. The problem is that is the the inequality that like everything that those who have the most, they're dangerously unhappy and unconnected.
They're dangerously unhappy and also dangerously powerful, right? So like
Yes.
this combination does never goes well for the rest of
I
us.
mean, just like
Uh,
think about like in, I don't know, you have mostly worked for yourself, but if you've
mm,
ever worked in a workplace where there it was a little bit like, I don't know, I'm just thinking about this restaurant I worked at for a short period of time, and like the boss was real emotional kind of a guy and was having a hard time in his marriage, and then like would come in and he'd be like pissed, and like it was scary. Like it was scary to be around,
Yeah,
because he had power over all of us because he was the
right.
boss.
Yep.
And so like I just feel like it's like that. It's like it is terrifying to have people with power who are so unhappy.
Well,
It's
yeah, and you think about like eugenics or something like that, where there's these philosophies that don't they pop up like, oh, this idea that we're supposed to be only breeding for like the superhuman, right? And I just think that AI is an extension of that. It's like, oh, now we're breeding for like the superhuman technological combo. And so everybody else that's left
ugh.
behind that doesn't have a chip in their brain is like a lower form, is like a lower worth human. Females are already lower worth than males, right? People of color or people who have, different ethnicities are already lower. This is white supremacy and misogyny, and it's the whole package. I mean, we've been in it this whole time, but now you've got this tech component to it, which I think is just of course, it's the same extension because it's the same mentality. It's not coming from a
It's
different,
not new.
not new. No, it's absolutely not new. This is like so in a way boring in the sense that it's like they talk about how radical and it's not. It's just like the you know I think very unrealistic too layer of, oh yeah, we're just going to evolve these super rich people who have the ability to, like, I don't know, live in computers or something. But the reality is, when you look around, these super gigantic processors take massive amounts of water, massive amounts of energy, and like the Earth. I mean, they can't escape the fact that they are still on a planet of finite resources, like, and they're just pretending that doesn't exist, which they always have. Colonialism, right? Thank you, Thanksgiving episode. But we're back to
Oh,
colonialism.
oh, oh,
It's the
right.
idea that they can just take whatever they want and it's just infinite. It's just like, the earth will just keep producing. People will keep working for them. It's just going to keep going and going and going. And I think all of this is going to come to a very like
It
a sticky end, as they're already talking about the AI bubble burst. They're already, it's already like writing
Oh,
about it. Like, this isn't gonna,
wait, I
all
just
this all these money that they've been making about hyping this post-humanism space is, I think people are getting wise to the fact that this is bullshit. Like, they don't actually have the technology that they've been talking about. They don't actually have. None of it really works that well. And like it was all hype to try to get people to invest as much money as they could, and the bubble will burst. And when it does, it's going to be a huge economic collapse because our whole stock market's kind of being based on this AI bubble right now. That's where all the money's being made. And I'm not trying to drag us into the headlines because I know it's not what this podcast is about. I'm only saying all this to just describe, like, I guess it's like, if you look at that system, and anybody listening to this, if you look at that system and then you at any time take a thought in your brain like, oh, I'm getting old, that means just think of the system you're comparing yourself to. Like, the 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 label you just chose to beat yourself up with is coming from like this insanity, like this total insanity. And it unveils itself more and more and more each day, how crazy and crazy and crazier it's getting. Like, I think it's in a way kind of freeing, like, for hopefully for people. I mean, I think some of us have been onto it for a while, but it's like the veil is like you said, the emperor has no clothes. The veil is dropped. Like, they're just,
they're like right out there,
why
which
compare
is
or try to be in that system in any sense if it's at all degrading to your self-image, or at all.
which I think is why it is like um I've been thinking about like doing I've been increasingly I'm not looking on Instagram, very rarely on there. I haven't posted anything since September. Like I'm thinking about just like deleting my account, and then and it's like I go back and forth because, all their things. But like I'm I'm thinking about doing a news moratorium because it's like I
Mm-hmm.
do feel like the whole point of the news, which is controlled by the 1% or tenth of a percent,
Mm-hmm.
is to elicit an emotional to hijack us emotionally. It's not to
Essentially, yeah.
inform or to empower. And it's so selective. It's like it's very manipulative, you know. And so I'm like, what happens if instead of that, like, if and I did, like with the year that I was in treatments, I was on a news moratorium. I spent an entire year completely just, like everybody around me, nobody told me about anything. Like I did a news moratorium and it was totally supported by the people that were supporting me through that process. And
Mhm.
like, I know that was like the most luminous year of my life, even though I was going through this really intense thing. And I think that so I just keep thinking about that. It's like if I could be going through pretty
Yeah,
brutal treatments,
yeah.
you know, and be happier, like really, I wasn't happy because I was sick. Like I feel like that's a little gruesome, but
I
despite
mean,
that,
yeah, you said you were going through a sacred initiation, and like, why be plugged in to a constant stream of bullshit? Which, I mean, I'm not trying to dog on all reporters. We've already had this conversation on a previous episode about how the media is actually designed this way. Like they feel like their job is to report the negative. And
yes,
if they report on the positive, they're being biased, or they suggest any positive solutions or focus. They feel that that's like them
leading.
leading the witness or whatever, which lends you to be the doctor who just diagnoses, everything that's wrong and never ever gives you an answer about what you can do about it. That's kind of what the media is. I think it's a really apt description for the way it's actually built. It's not even the individuals. It's just the system of, how it works, journalism. And not to say there's not good work being done there, but yeah, if that's, if you're in a sacred initiation, why, yeah, there's no reason at all to be plugged into the endless problems of, the world. And now it's like on a stream, it updates what, every 3 seconds or something for the entire world. Like none of us are designed to handle that emotionally, and there's no solutions. So you're in a sacred space of trying to heal and transform and go through something like really powerful with your body. It's absolutely essential that you clear that channel, like only for the things that heal, center, ground, you know
Mhm.
help you walk that initiation. And of course, all of us could do that. I mean, every single one of us could be like, we're trying to initiate ourselves into a new way of being on this planet, and we could turn all this shit off. It'd probably happen a lot faster. But we feel like we have to
So
be.
I do feel like how do you like okay, so you like because I feel like I've had this like myth in my head since I was a young person that if only people had access to information, they would
Yeah,
make different choices. And like part
well,
of like realizing it's like that's just not really the way it is. And that's
that's
the
not how people make choices either.
that's
It's not
not how
even like
people
how
make
we work.
choices.
No,
Right.
we're emotional beings. We're animals. We're not, like, it would be lovely if we were Mr. Spock, if we were Vulcans, it's just like, give me the right information and it would be logical that I would act a certain way. Like, no.
That's not how we
I mean,
work.
that is not, we are Captain Kirks, we are humans, and it's absolutely not how we roll. So you got this I mean, I've always thought that was fascinating too, because as an environmentalist for a long time, that was our strategy. Give people more and more information, right? Just tell them more and more what's going on. And emotionally, everyone's shutting down and leaving because it's too much. Like, people can't handle all this information. We're emotional creatures, and we're not giving them anything. We're not giving them anything to do. We're just like, oh, give us. If you see it with the Democratic Party, just give us $5. All this horrible thing is happening, and what you can do is give me $5, $15, and everyone's
Yeah.
like, what?
Fuck
Like,
off.
yeah, fuck off, because it doesn't do anything for what you just did to me emotionally. One, like, you just, barrage me with like 10 different things that are, horribly going wrong, and then offering very little solutions other than to give you money. It is a debilitating old strategy. And it's just, I mean, God, we need to throw it out. It's just terrible. And so it doesn't work. And the marketers know this. The entire advertising industry is built on emotion. So you got this, and we know what sells, we know what motivates people. You got people, in an industry that knows how to do that, and then you've got people on the other side still in this weird, system of like, just give them the information. And no, that's not how we roll at all.
Well, and so I do feel like that the how do we how do we in um
I mean, social media is just marketing on crack. It's just like,
correct.
It is everything about marketing. It's an emotional pull, but now it's happening within like 2 seconds. It's not a 90, second commercial. It's a 2 second reel or, five. It's got to grab your attention so fast. And I just read you said, being off your phone for a year. I just read this article and it was a real article, not just a reel. And it was like, oh my God, man doesn't use phone for 12 years. And it was like written like it's like this amazing thing, which I thought was funny just because, we're in a generation that grew up without phones. So it's like, okay, that's not that radical. I mean, just not having a phone. A lot of people don't. But the one thing he reported back was his sense of time and continuity return. Like he could feel seasons. He could feel time so much clearer and feel connected to like how just like the continuity of his life, whereas he realized that for his brain like being online all the time was just really like jarring and fragmented, back and forth. And it's true, everything's in these really fast bits, everything's moving really fast and feels very stressful to us to have that be happening.
So here's my oh God, I just saw it and now it just like flittered off. Shit. And I wanted to ask you a question about that.
That's all right,
And
it'll come back.
it's
It'll circle like a little butterfly around
a
your
little
head and
butterfly.
come back.
Come around, come back.
Mariposa,
That's so
mariposa.
funny because above my head on the ceiling are this string of birds that my friend Rachel made me. And they say each bird has a different letter, and the first bird has the word B, and then the rest of them spell out resilient. Be
Nice.
resilient.
Beautiful. Nice. Well,
So
if
that
nothing else, it got you to look up and see that.
yeah, they have to be resilient. But like it does feel like that that brings us, didn't we talk all about time and how
Yeah.
control of time is the control. Like, and so it's like, how do you connect and slow down? And then you are more resilient. We are more resilient when we are centered, like the books
Absolutely.
I keep talking about these Catherine Gennett books that I am obsessed with right
Yeah.
now. And the one character they were facing this kind of intense situation and she's like open heart, strong spine.
Mm.
And
Was I talking to you about the Kuan Yin? Was it, you were talking about the Kuan Yin statue? Um, the guy who was running the Airbnb, I was staying in here before this, he had just come back from Thailand?
sorry, I'm gonna cough some more.
Vietnam, came back from Vietnam. And he had purchased at this old woman's shop, she was selling some of her mother's like cool antique things that she had passed away and she was like selling them in this shop. And he picked up this little statue he thought was a Buddha, and he brought it back to Guatemala because he lives here. And then he unwrapped it and he looked at it, and it was a Kuan Yin actually. And in one hand she was holding the mudra for patience, and in the other hand she was holding a willow branch symbolizing
Mm,
flexibility. And he looked it up, and the Kuan Yin's big thing was patience and flexibility are the keys to how we roll in the world. If we want to be compassionate, enlightened beings, we have to be both patient and flexible. I was like, oh man, like it struck me like how wise that was and how wise those two symbols
yes.
were. And think about anything in our culture that has any kind of like that just doesn't exist. Like that's just not. It's always about being strong and fast and big and powerful and patient and flexible is dipping back into nurture culture values. It's like, yeah, just slowing it all down, slowing it down.
So
Time.
if you had to, sorry, I just dropped the microphone. It wasn't a mic drop moment, but I did drop it.
It was for you.
If you had to choose, because I'm worried, I got derailed by being sick, but um, one of the things I'm wanting to make is for this installation I'm putting up. Um, I'm just thinking about what are the if you had like like nerd what are the precepts of like those are two precepts like you need to hold patience and flexibility. Like
Mm,
what are some other nurture culture like I just
mm,
like belonging like what are
mm.
some other like
I think,
Or like,
it's really clear when you say what you're grateful for, because that's what people do on Thanksgiving. But that's kind of like when you get into when you drop into gratitude, I think that's where those all show up, don't you?
that all the things. But if,
Mm-hmm.
oh my gosh, I have to drink some water.
That's
Sorry.
okay. I'm gonna talk for a minute. So, like, if you, I'm trying to tie this in with this moment we're having, which, by the way, is really funny because there, was it pavos is Spanish for turkey, pavo, and I went to class today to my Espanol maestra de Espanol, and she very sweetly like made me a list of all the restaurants in San Marcos where I am that may be serving like pavo tomorrow for Thanksgiving.
Oh,
I was like, oh, I don't even celebrate it really when I was back in the States, and I was like, that's so sweet of you. And then on my way home, I was walking down this little street, and there's a turkey. Like I mean, I've been watching this turkey. It's been like in this yard, and then all of a sudden the yard was it was moved to like the cage. Like it was obviously like getting
on
ready to.
its way to being.
Wow, and it's like right on the street, so it's not like, and it's so fact, it's like a beautiful turkey. But it was so funny because I was watching. It's been kind of free ranging around with the rest of the birds, and
Oh
all of
my
a sudden
gosh.
today it was like definitely in the pre-slaughter
I'm so sorry.
container, much smaller, no food. Like, oh yeah, they're getting that turkey ready. And I was like, that's so weird. I'm in Guatemala and they're like gonna butcher a turkey for Thanksgiving, or maybe they're gonna sell it to a restaurant or something. But that's my little interesting
I,
Guatemala takeaway.
one of my YouTube,
Dia de Gracias.
one of my discoveries on my days of being in bed and watching too much YouTube was that there's a TV show. I think I don't know if it's CBS or ABC, like the Sunday morning show. It's like a little, they interview, you know, art and stuff. But what I didn't know and that I discovered is that they have a 2 minute, like little nature thing at the end. That's what they end on. Sorry, because the reason I found it is they had the thing from last Sunday, which was wild turkeys in Washington State, and it was just this little film, and you could hear all their sweet little turkey sounds, and it was so great. And then I was like, oh my God, what? They do this all the time. And so I went down the rabbit hole of watching many short nature, 2 minute nature
We
films. And
had like a whole bunch of wild turkeys around my farm. Like
I
we
love
smelled,
wild turkeys. They're so
yeah. So
beautiful,
they're very beautiful, and if they
and they're
have a tom,
huge.
yeah, like the females they're big, but the toms are really big. And like if they have a male turkey with them with the flock, which they don't always, it's really beautiful because he'll come out and like if you're getting close or you're driving your truck too close to the girls, he'll come out and like get in the road and like fan out all his feathers and like protect them, like showing off like. I don't know, he's trying to distract you or like trying to make himself look bigger, like is scarier to kind of keep you away. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's so cool. Some days I'd be walking down to the lower field, which was across the road from where I was living, and I would run into him in like the early morning when I was going down to check the crops or something, and like I'd see the girls first. You'd hear them, of course, and then the tom would come out and be like, "Where are you going?" Like get in the road right in front of me and like pull all his feathers. I was like, "Oh, this is so great! It's so awesome." And it is indigenous to this continent. I mean, that's like one big indigenous bird, so it makes sense they're in Guatemala too. I mean, they're from here.
They are also wild there, or they're just
Uh,
being grown, like raised like
the one
chickens.
I saw was definitely a domestic turkey. I mean, like it was definitely it's a beautiful turkey, like heritage. But I don't know if they have wild turkey. I'll ask my teacher. They have pavos in the woods. It seemed like there'd be a lot of predation, but who knows? There's
Oh
so
my
many.
gosh.
I'm just amazed at the coexistence between all the stray dogs here and the stray chickens. Like you think, like the dogs start taking out the chickens. They're hungry. I mean, their bones are stimming. You can see their ribs. These dogs are skinny, hungry, and like there's just pretty fat looking, good looking chickens are like everywhere. And I'm like, why are they? It's like
Why aren't they eating them?
I would, yeah, that's they must not have. I don't know. Like maybe they've been punished really bad if they do eat their. I mean, there might be a system where they know they're not supposed to, or something bad will happen, or. But it seems like something in the dog brain would click at some point if you're hungry enough to be like, "That's food right there. I can eat that." And chickens aren't that
Or at
bad.
least look for eggs.
They probably do that. Yeah, I actually have seen broken eggshells on the sidewalk and stuff. So they probably do find random eggs. It's it's interesting to be in an environment where the dogs are. I mean, there are pet dogs with collars and look very well fed and everything, but then there's this whole other system of dogs that aren't. They're just like live around, And if you walk home, this is a total sidetrack here I'm taking, but like if you walk home late at night, say you're going to a sauna, you come out of the place at like 8:30, it's pitch black, and you're walking through the jungle, and all of a sudden there's a stray dog behind you, and you're like, that's cool. And then there's two, and then there's three, and then they're the growling, and then there's four. And you're like, it totally changes your relationships with these animals because always the dog, oh, we love our dogs, and like when they're hungry, and like all of a sudden you have this instinctual like, oh, I'm not. This is like a pack of dogs, and I'm prey. Basically, like I'm like something they would consider at least biting because they get
Wow.
territorial and weird. And but I learned the trick. Somebody taught me that all you have to do is bend down like you're picking up a rock. You don't actually have to pick up the rock. You just bend down and
And
make
they've
that
had enough
motion.
rocks thrown that they know.
Yeah. Like since they're puppies, they've learned that motion means like back off. And so works like a charm. Anybody hearing this that has that problem later on in their life, just bend down like you're picking up a rock, and those dogs break and run. It's like,
That
oh,
actually, when I worked, I lived in I lived in a kind of a cracked neighborhood adjacent street when I lived in Lansing.
oh
Um,
yeah.
and sometimes the young hood boys would be out kind of lurking around in the street corner, and I'd have to walk past them on my, I'd get off the bus, and I had to like to get to my house, I had to walk past where there was often a little bit of congregation of, you know, some gang activity.
Mm-hmm.
But like there was a a dentist or something anyway, and they had, like there's the sidewalk, and then right close to the building they had like a little tiny strip, and they had these perfect round rocks.
Mm,
And so I would stop and pick up a rock, but they could see me do it. And it's like, oh,
mm,
baby, you don't have to do that. And it's like,
uh,
I just pick
like
up a
yeah,
rock.
just
I'm
I'm
like, yeah.
holding it.
And
It's
I'd
just that
walk.
motion.
I know, totally. So like,
Actually, it works on packs of
all right,
humans too if
it's
they're
all
being
right,
aggressive.
it's all right, baby.
Uh,
It's just like, yeah, it is. Because I got
okay,
a
I
big
still,
rock in my
but I
head.
do have it in my
I'm
hand
gonna
just
hit
in
you
case.
up, knock you side the head with it.
Yeah, it's interesting because I mean, when I first got here, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna start buying dog food and feeding these dogs. Like I had this whole, and then after one tried to bite me, I was like, okay, dogs. Like I was more like, yeah, it's you and me, and we're gonna have like we have a, I see you, you see me, and I'm gonna walk past now, and you are not gonna bite me, and it's a whole energetic thing because yeah, they're not pets. It's interesting. I don't know, that's a really big sidetrack towards whatever we've
So
been rambling on
I'm
about,
realizing I'm like
and you're dying.
I'm increasingly coughing and
Yeah. Well,
use up my talking. I've been By myself watching YouTube, and this is a lot of blabbing for a pathetic.
okay. So to end this up, we're gonna end it. Because Iris is dying and I'm babbling. I never talk to anybody either. I'm solo traveling, so when I get a chance, I'm like, uh, teaching you how to defend yourself from stray packs of dogs. Like nobody needs that, Ginger. My helpful hand for Thanksgiving.
Oh my God.
It's things you need to know. I love you so much, and I'm
Oh
so
my God, I
grateful
love you
that we
so
have
much.
this podcast. I'm so grateful we can have these weird conversations and that other people like to listen to our weird conversations. Grateful to all you listening. It's amazing. What fun.
It, it is. And I hope it is. I just hope for everyone that everyone has a chance to have a kind of a crazy conversation in real life somewhere, like
But
I'm
maybe not at
glad to be
Thanksgiving.
able to have people be part of this crazy conversation because it is like kind of a
It's actually not great. It's the same conversation. What's
we
happening
always
right? The
it's not
craziness is
crazy
going on.
conversation, but that to have like a real
Authentic.
exchange
Mm-hmm.
person to person and
Mm-hmm.
to be able to include other people in it is kind of a beautiful
Absolutely. It's
thing.
unscripted. Let's just put it that way. We
It
get
is
on these and
definitely.
we do not talk about
If
them.
you hadn't noticed, we
Yeah, if
do
you
not.
haven't noticed, there's no script or plan to these. We just kind of talk.
We're
Uh,
just this brilliant naturally.
yeah,
Um,
exactly. A Gemini and a
oh my God,
Sagittarius. Okay, she's dying. I'm gonna let
I'm
everybody
dying.
let you go, so you go back to bed and watch
Well,
YouTube,
I'm in bed, so
and
it's
oh,
okay.
slouch down further. Uh, I love you so
Oh,
much,
I love you so much.
and yeah, by next week I'm gonna be back in Antigua, so I'm leaving the lake. I'm gonna be still in Guatemala, but I'm gonna be start on the move again. Heading
So
towards
I might
Mexico.
be. Well, we'll check in. I might. I had to postpone all the stuff from this week. So part of which is
Oh, that's right. That's right.
hanging my show. So
Okay. Well, next week's my
but what I'm saying is like after I'm in the evening like this, like I'm not going to want to be doing anything but hanging out in my cute little room, my cute little
okay.
trailer. So
Perfect.
we could do a both of us away from home podcast.
Yeah, that'd be fun. That'd be fun. Also, it's my birthday next weekend, so everybody,
Oh, so lovely.
number 6, send me some love. I'm gonna be climbing a volcano.
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
I'm very excited, but
So
yeah,
cool.
challenging, very challenging. So send me some energy.
Oh my God. All right. Last but not, oh, well, I can tell you off. We can turn off. I have a thing to
Tell me
tell you.
off. Okay, we're gonna turn it off so I can tell me something. We love you all. I'm sure it's not that juicy. Don't worry.
It's not
Uh,
juicy at all, but it's just
it's
not
probably
relevant
boring.
to
Yeah. Okay.
her. Sure.
Love you.
I love you.
Happy. What is it? Dia de Gracias. I love that. I like that
Oh,
better.
that is nicer.